Early morning shop day, boys. Let's get it. Alright boys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have another video for you working on our Civic. We got a couple things to go over and I need your guys' opinions down in the comments below. We'll get into that in today's video, but welcome back to the channel. Let's get going. First things first, it is freezing in here. I'm talking like 5 degrees Celsius or below. I leave my heater on, but it just doesn't keep up. It's cold as hell in here. Let's get another heater going and let's get working on this rig. That should help a ton. Let's get working on this thing. Oh yeah. These heaters are doing God's work today. But let's get into the topic of today's video. Yes, I know. We're back to it. The charge pipe. The cold side pipe with the blow-off valve with all the shrapnel behind it that may or may not have been putting it into my engine. Well, today I want to talk to you guys about something. If you guys haven't seen it, I'll put a card up in the top right now regarding our first Vlogmas video of this year. Now, that was the first one. The second one didn't get great views. It was the soldering of the reverse light wires. If you guys haven't watched that, also go check it out. It's a video right before this one in long form. Also a huge thank you guys. We posted a YouTube short and it almost got 500,000 freaking views. Insane. Shout out to you guys. And if you're new here, welcome to Brash Garage. This is what we do and this is our boosted B series swapped EG hatch. But going back to the first video talking about our eBay turbo, that kind of leads us into today's video talking about this cold pipe because as you can see, there is a nice spot for a blow-off valve on here, but if you guys have been following the channel, you know that this blow-off valve leaks, doesn't seat great. It is Chinese HKS knockoff, and there is some grossies behind it there. So we've got it pretty well cleaned out. It's pretty much ready to reinstall, but this is why I haven't. I kind of want to run no blow-off valve. Now hear me out. Max Speeding Rods eBay turbo, we've blasted it for an entire year. There's no shaft play, there's no oil seal leaks, there's none of that. We go over it in the first video of December, the Vlogmas episode 1. Turbo checks out good. Blow-off valves are $300 to $400 Canadian prices. I'm Canadian prices, $300-400 tile, go fast bits. That turbo is $250. So thinking, yeah, compressor surge isn't great, but it's also the most controversial boosted car thing in the world. Is compressor surge good? Is it bad? Some people say it's fine if it only happens when you let off the throttle and not when you're accelerating. Some people are saying no, it's terrible overall, blah blah blah. But here's the deal. This car doesn't leave the shop much. When it does, it gets meticulously inspected every time we take it out because, well, it's just at that level now where things can go wrong and we don't want that to happen while we're out on the open road. So every time it gets inspected and I'm on top of this turbo because as we all know, if a turbo blows up, it can take out your engine in many ways. Metal shrapnel running through the intercooler into your intake, metal shrapnel going back through the exhaust into the exhaust side of the head, a million different things. There's oil running through that turbo, picks up the metal shrapnel, goes back into the oil pan, now it's circulating around your engine. There's multiple ways where blowing up a turbo can hurt your engine. There's also multiple ways where blowing up a turbo, it's pretty evident that your freaking turbo is blowing up. You shut the car off, you may be okay, but you'd still want to flush out your intercooler, your oil, yada yada. Here's where I'm at. To replace that turbo is cheaper than a blow-off valve. No blow-off valve sounds cooler than a blow-off valve. So if I meticulously inspect this every drive, and if running no blow-off valve gets some shaft play or oil seal leaks, I can hopefully replace it before it blows up. So if we delete the blow-off valve, there'll be no more leak there. There'll be no more shrapnel behind the blow-off valve port on the cold side. And we get the cool noises. So if it's about to go with my meticulous inspections every time we go out, we should be able to replace it before it nukes a motor. So what I'm thinking is, let's just not run a blow-off valve. Get the cool noises. Bob's your uncle, and if the turbo blows, the turbo blows. But I want you guys to let me know in the comments below. Today, regardless, I want this thing to be operational, so we're gonna go ahead and continue cleaning this cold pipe, put the blow-off valve back on, and I might even see if I've got some extra sheet metal laying around that we can cut out to kind of cap off this hole, or maybe talk to my fabricator and see if he can make us a new 2.5-inch intercooler pipe with no hole cut in it for no blow-off valve. Regardless, let's get into it. Before we install this pipe, I want to go ahead and blast it out with some air. Now, here's kind of the caveat. This is my little old air compressor, and it doesn't actually regulate pressure. It just keeps pumping and doesn't really hold anything. So I'm gonna try and plug it in, figure that out. Worst comes to worst, I'll just keep letting it charge up so I can blast out all the shrapnel from this pipe, because I used this blue rag to kind of clean it out last video. And there's a kind of a little bit of blue fluffies in there since it's kind of grabby metal shrapnel in there. So I want to blast it out, reconnect this blow-off valve, but I also want to see if there's anything I can do to kind of cap this off today. And another thing I want to touch on, I want to see if I have any pipes available that I can take this turbo guard off and actually run like a cold air intake. But as you can see, this spacing here and the not a lot of available room, it's going to be pretty damn hard to run an intake on this car unless it's some sort of very short stubby filter. But I've been getting a lot of flack of this turbo guard, so we're going to see if we can handle that today as well. Alright, well, that actually works pretty good. I do think that compressor is a little bit hooped, but as far as I can tell, I can't really see any more shrapnel in here, and it's actually looking pretty clean. So let's take this over to the car, install it. We should be all met. Well, this pipe's been off for so long that I guess your boy forgot how to put it on. I got the blow-off valve facing out the top, and well, that is just not the place it's supposed to go. The hood would not even freaking close, so let's go ahead and switch this around, I guess. Unbelievable. Alright boys, well, this is my loft. It's an absolute nightmare. I'm gonna climb my big ass up on here and see if I can't find a piece of sheet metal that we may or may not work to block off this blow-off valve. So let's watch this ensue here. I found it. We have it. Let's see if I have a hole saw the same size, and if I do, we'll drill one out. Well, I'll be damned, boys. Check this out. Hole saw right on the top. It's literally a perfect match. So I'm gonna put this down, trace it out, and we're gonna blast a freaking hole in this rig today, boys. Good thing it's a wood table, because I'll just go right through it if I need to, but we got what we're looking for. Let's get to drilling, and hopefully I don't have to install this. Now, I don't have a welder. I have RTV. But if I put too much on, I can't see in the pipe if it's leaking out or spill, and that RTV could get sucked into the motor. I would really like this welded, but I don't have a welder, and my fabricator is not available at this very moment. So maybe some silicone would do the trick, because I do have silicone, and I think that's what we're gonna try. I think we're gonna try and silicone it in. And if that doesn't work, well, we'll just have to get a new intercooler pipe, because we're rocking no blow-off valve, boys. Let me know in the comments if this is an absolutely terrible idea, but let's go blast some holes, shall we? Okay boys, well I made somewhat of a revelation here and it's not fantastic. So as you've seen, I got the pilot hole drilled and I'm not too worried about drilling through this. It's just like fiberboard, big deal. But we have a trusty magnet here and I thought this was aluminum, but it isn't. Obviously, intercooler piping. It's freaking aluminum, so guess what's not getting welded in there? But you boys got silicone. I think I'm gonna try and freaking silicone this goddamn thing in. And well shit, I guess we'll see what happens, right? Guys, this is brutal. I think it's time for a goddamn Milwaukee drill, because this old sucker is just, I mean, watch this. I'm literally putting no pressure on this thing. Okay, well I know you guys have been screaming at me in the comments ever since I started this. Whew, not having big brain moments today. My hole saws have pilot holes, so how the hell is that gonna block off a turbo? It's got a freaking pilot hole right through it. So here's what I'm gonna do. Here is exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call up my fabricator and I'm either A, going to get him to make a new 2.5 inch cold pipe right there, or I'm gonna get him to cut out that circle in aluminum with a hole saw that doesn't have a pilot hole through the middle and weld it in place instead of silicone, because with silicone there's always that scare of a little piece, you know, falls off in there, gets sucked into your engine, yada yada yada. I've had it happen on oil pans quite a few times, but I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I don't even have a hole saw that doesn't have like a pilot hole. I got no drill press, I got no nothing. So I'm gonna have to put the camera down for a little bit. I'm gonna have to come up with a new solution. I might look up this blow off valve and see if there's a way we can just like tighten it and kind of like just cap it off like that. But for now, I'm gonna have to get my fabricator to do this, because yeah. We've come so far, I'm gonna make the best out of this situation. I'm gonna go ahead, shave down these edges with a nice file here. Once it's all clean and smooth, I'm gonna put it in there, see if it's the right size. If it is, I can give this to the fabricator as a template, but not gonna lie, I feel kind of dumb right now. But let's just file this down, install it so there's no metal fragments getting in, and just see if we were close to the size we need, because for all we know, this could possibly not even be the right size. So let's just keep going here, and maybe we can use this as a nice little template for the fabricator. He can be happier with us. All right, and now that our plate is made, even though it's got a pilot hole in the center, not really having big brain moments today, but regardless, let's go ahead and see if this fits. And if it does, bingo. If it doesn't, well, would you look at that? It's quite literally perfect. You could weld dimes around that and be good to go. Now I know some of you thinking, well, just silicone the middle or cut another piece and put it over top and silicone that, but I just prefer if this was welded on, but regardless, it is quite literally the perfect size to fit right in there. I don't know if he's gonna wanna make a bigger one and have it sit more flush with the outer ring, but I was going for the inner ring where the blow-off valve sits, and it's literally to a T perfect. Now, if we were to silicone this, the only place we could have silicone is around this fat outer lip right here, which isn't a ton of surface area for silicone, but regardless, we have a pilot hole. Anyways, we're gonna use this as a template for the fabricator to work off of, and he's gonna make us a proper block off plate. Now, let's move on to the other segment of the video. Okay boys, I think this is gonna work out better anyways because I wasn't a huge fan of the whole ordeal of silicone. So I'm gonna go ahead, throw the HKS blow-off valve back on, then our engine bay will finally be complete. That cold side pipe is finally cleaned out. Blew it out with the air compressor. Let's install this, and then I'm gonna hit up my fabricator, and hopefully sooner than later, maybe the next Vlogmas episode, because we're doing 4 long forms like we usually do for Vlogmas, 1 every week on Sunday, and then we're uploading a bunch of shorts on top of that. So this is the 3rd week of Vlogmas. We only have 1 more week of Vlogmas, so hopefully it is the Christmas season. People are busy and booked up, but hopefully I can make a video of taking the charge pipe off, taking it over there. He can cut one out, he can weld one in place, and then we can have a proper block off. But for right now, just so the engine bay is situated, clean, tidy, and I can start this car up and move it if need be, I'm gonna go ahead and put the HKS blow-off valve back on. And I do think that this is gonna be a perfect template. So I'm gonna bring this over to him, but let's go ahead, let's get this situated, and then I want to talk about that turbo guard, see what we can do about that. Probably another fabricator situation, but get excited for the next video because we failed today, but this failure is turning into something positive. I'm going to get the welder to actually fabricate and weld in something in that pipe to completely block it off, way better than silicone ever could. And what I was cutting was steel, and I thought it was aluminum, so he wouldn't be able to weld that if it was perfect without a hole in the middle. Anyways, he's got a lot of aluminum, so he can go ahead and weld that up for me, and then hopefully make an intake for this, and I want to talk about some ideas with that. First things first, let's get this goddamn blow-off valve back on, so I could at least start my car moving around, and just be able to come to the shop and fire the thing up if need be, because for the last like 3 weeks, she's been down under construction, you know what I mean, brother? Anyways, let's go put this back on. And just like that, boys, our engine bay is put back together. If we needed to, we could start this rig and move it at any moment. The blow-off valve is on a lot tighter than it was before. If you guys remember back quite a few videos ago, I could just like barely touch this thing and it would move. So I've reseated it, but it does like to kind of unseat itself, if you will. But I'm just gonna go ahead and tuck that down so there's no tension on it. Vacuum line's connected, this is connected, but don't worry, this is getting blocked off. Now, I know you guys are gonna be chewing me apart in the comments. Well, Dawson, could you not just take the drill bit out of the center of the hole saw? And I can, and our circle may or may not turn into an oval very fast. Yeah. It's pretty hard without a drill press and just hand tools to get a nice perfect circle. I thought of that, don't worry, but unfortunately an oval will not block off our blow-off valve. So don't you guys worry. Hopefully in next episode, I'm gonna contact my fabricator today, and hopefully in next episode, we can get a block-off plate for this and possibly get some ideas flowing for the turbo intake. Without further ado, let's take a look at this turbo and see what we're working with as far as intake goes, because, well, it's pretty tight, but I think we might be able to make something work. People have been eating me alive in the comments about this damn turbo guard. So let's try and fix it. Just want to show you guys one more thing with these hole saws too. So this one and this one are my 2 biggest sizes. This is the one we use to cut out this plate, as you can see, just like that. This one is quite a lot bigger. Now, I took this one and I held it up to the port right here, and it literally is so big that it lines the outer ring of this. So there's not really a spot to weld it on since it's identically the size of this outer ring. And the one that we did sits so far in there that all like the ridges for the rubber seal and the snap ring are still exposed. So I need one that's like in between this size and the size that we drilled, because the size that we drilled is just a little bit too small. Like it covers it up, but then there's a lot of dead space. This one is too big because it doesn't leave a surface to weld as it's on the outside of this whole circle. So I literally need one in between these two sizes that kind of comes out almost where this snap ring seats. If you guys can see that, the snap ring seats just right on the inside lip. If I could get one that matches that inside lip and then weld a bead around the outside so it's kind of nice and flush and everything's all, you know, tucked away and clean. The one that we drilled just sits so far in there that everything else is exposed, and you would have to lay thick beads because behind the plate everything's so much more deep and recessed for that recession for the rubber O-ring. So unfortunately my biggest size is too big, and the one step down could work, but it's just a little bit too small. Like this is smaller than the O-ring that seals the HKS blow-off valve. So it sits flush where the valve would sit, but then there's so much dead space in front of it, and you'd have to lay really, really thick welds. And if you guys know anything about welding, this aluminum is Chinese, this is super thin. You're laying thick dimes and there's a lot of heat in there. It has the potential to warp and even melt some stuff. So I just need one that is a little bit bigger than this, but not quite as big as our biggest hole saw. So of course, yes, there's little slots that I could, you know, take the drill bit out of and just thread this attachment on, but it walks around a lot. Not only that, this one that we use is a hair too small. It could work if need be, and this one is just too big. So ideally we need a size in between this one and this one. However, yes, this one could still work, but regardless, it would be most ideal, instead of using a size that's just barely big enough and siliconing it, it'd be way more ideal to get a size that's in between these two, that's aluminum instead of steel. They can be welded right in place. So that's the ordeal with this whole setup. We're done with it. Let's talk about this freaking turbo right here. Okay, boys, so this turbo, as we can see here, there is very, very minimal space to work with. I mean, the gap between the guard and there is basically non-existent. So I don't have a 3-inch filter to show you guys. This one's like a 4.5-inch on the big carbon intake. I low-key missed when this was in the bay because this is just pure gorgeousness. But if we hold it right over the turbo, right where the turbo guard's lined up, yeah, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that's not going to work. And this is quite a stubby filter in and of itself. So I was talking to my fabricator and he said he might be able to make an inlet here and pie cut it super thin so that it kind of goes over here. And if we clear out these wires, we can get fresh air right through that hole right there. But regardless, like this is my hand. Everyone chews me apart for running this turbo guard, but guys, like, what the hell do you want me to do? Like, and if you look straight down, there's our intercooler pipe. So it can't really go straight down. Also, there is maybe 3-4 inches of room between the torque mount and the frame rail of the car. There is just no room there. So to just buy a filter and smash it on here, good luck. The only thing that's going to be our saving grace, like we can't move this turbo, like it's fixed on the manifold. Like there's no clocking this in a different way. Sure, we can clock the cold side for the intercooler pipe, but it doesn't change the trajectory like this. Like we can't just angle the turbo like this and stick a filter in between here. Like this is how it is, like point blank and simple. You know what I mean? So he would have to make this is 3-inch, I believe. So he'd have to make a 3-inch pipe, which is a huge freaking pipe. I mean, it's this big right here. So he would have to make it and immediately kind of restrict it to a pie cut, or even restrict it right to 2.5, and then kind of land it right over here with a filter. It would be a stubby piece. Like it would only be a pie cut of about maybe 4 to 6 inches before the turbo fills up the rest of the room over here. But everyone chews me apart about this filter guard. Just so you guys know, take a look in there. I have the very tight knit mesh one. It's not the one with the big hexagonal open holes. Like, it's very, very tight knit. Like, obviously it's gonna suck more in than a filter, but this is the most finely woven mesh one that you can buy. But regardless, people just tear me apart in it, in TikToks and YouTube shorts and the long form content. Everyone tears apart this turbo guard. I've been getting a lot of flack for it lately, but like, I did the video, I tested the shaft play and all that, and it's good to go. But here's the kicker. With a blocked off blow off valve, you're gonna get the Stu 22s, right? Because it's compressor surging to let all that excess air that's trapped in here when the throttle plates close, it's coming back out of the turbo. So that's when you get that shaft play. And you know, it's called compressor surge. It surges the compressor and it lets the air out like that. Now, another way to make the turbo sound more spicy is to put a pipe on it with a filter. The longer the pipe, the more sound you get out of it, because that Stu 22 has to reverberate out that pipe through the filter versus just falling right out of the mouth of the turbo. So, no blow-up valve is gonna give us better sound than the little whoosh that this thing gives us. And then if we put a pipe on it too, the sound's gonna have to reverberate farther to get out, although it's not gonna be very long, but it's still gonna be more than this. So my theory is, if he makes a block off plate for us, and then an intake with a filter, we are gonna get the most gnarly stu-tu-tu noises out of this car, right? It's obviously not exactly what I'm going for because it's bad for the turbo, and this isn't like a Garrett or anything to begin with. And I have been getting a lot of flack about this. Like, I bought this turbo as like a test to see how well these Chinese turbos do, and I went with max speeding rods because they have come a long ass way. But guys, like, this whole car is built with proper parts. I made a couple videos talking about a Chinese turbo, and somehow everybody and their dog thinks that this car is built with just Chinese junk parts. Like, brother, my top mount manifold cost as much as a Garrett. My top mount manifold cost as much as 5 of these turbos. Like, the bolts, the Speed Factory titanium studs holding the manifold on is more than half the price of this freaking turbo. My 3-inch downpipe and full exhaust, custom fabricated, cost as much as like 6 or 7 of these turbos. Like, calm down here. My intercooler and slim fan cost more than this turbo. Like, everything on this car is built with real parts. And for all you guys naysaying, why don't you take a peek at this sucker right here? Why don't you take a peek at that sucker right there, hey? Rebuilt, zero shaft play, ready to freaking terrorize the streets. Already tapped for boost source, Garrett baby, right there, 0.6 AR. So for all you guys talking crap, seeing that I put an eBay turbo on this car, talking about this car's put together with eBay parts, what a junk ricer. Okay, buddy, okay. You know what? We got a Garrett here. The manifold that this damn Chinese turbo is sitting on costs 10 times the amount of this turbo. The camber kit I have on this car costs 10 times the amount of this turbo. The Recaros, the spoon mirrors, the flow-formed Koenigs, and the Nittos. Like, guys, I don't think you understand how much money I've actually put into this damn car. Like, yeah, I got a Chinese turbo. And I beat the hell out of it for a full year, making almost 10 pounds of boost. And what's happened? Nothing. It builds boost quick. It holds it all the way to the top of the RPM, which is 8,300. It doesn't fall off, and after a year's worth of abuse, there's zero shaft play and zero oil seal leaks. These max speeding rods turbos, they're cheap, but they hold up the test of time so far. But don't worry, your boy's got a completely rebuilt with fresh internal Garrett sitting on the shelf, okay? So just calm down. Just take a breather, okay? We got a Chinese turbo, so what? I got a Garrett sitting on the shelf, and the whole rest of the car is built with good parts. But without further ado, boys, we tried to make the block off plate today. Kind of was a bit of a fail, but what we did do is we cleaned out the pipe, we hooked up the air compressor, we blew it out. I'm happy with it. It's back on the car. The blow off valve's back on the car. I can fire this thing up, and away we go. So today wasn't a complete fail. We got the entire car put back together, operational state. Now hopefully the next video I will be at the fabricator getting a blow off valve blocked off, and seeing what kind of game plan we can formulate to make an intake on this turbo. And then hopefully if there's still no snow on the ground, we can go for a bit of a drive and see how gnarly the stu-tu-tu sounds are, because I mean, no blow-off valve with an intake, it should be pretty sick, I can't lie. But I hate to say it, it was a little bit of a flop trying to make a block-off plate for the blow-off valve. Regardless, we did get the engine bay put back together, and my Turbo Civic is fully functional yet again, ready for some blizzards and snow. Take it out of the shop, maybe wrap it in Christmas lights, do some fun things like that, get the Christmas spirit going for Vlogmas. But more fabrication coming on the car, and for today's episode, it is put back together. We restored the former glory of the Civic. Until next time, baby, comment, like, subscribe, and I hope to see you boys in the next one. Peace out, and we'll see you later.